Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to HitScan and welcome to another Omened by HP video. The Overwatch League and Contenders is down with a nice little lull, so as a pre-Christmas treat I wanted to sit down to a new face of the Overwatch League, Custa, who was the previous support player for the LA Valiant but is now going to be on the analyst desk as the Overwatch League hits the global stage next year. I wanted to get his impression on the meta as a whole, both for being a support player but also playing tanks in the recent Breaking Barrier tournament that Blizzard put together this weekend. And we go over some pretty interesting stuff. The main one is that whilst heroes like Orisa and Sigma are still meta, the game has actually changed quite dramatically in how it plays, and that is purely down to Zenyatta, a hero that people just don't think is very good right now. So Custa's going to give his impressions on that, as well as a few other bits and pieces. But sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. When that patch came in, you know, the Breaking Barriers one of like Orisa and Sigma being nerfed, what happened, I suppose, afterwards? What's meta? What, in your eyes, is like the best comp the team should be running?
I think over the last little bit, it seems that it's going to be like Orisa, Sigma, Baptiste, Zen, and then you have Hanzo Mei, I would say, would be like the traditional of what you're going to run. I think there is some argument for playing Reinhardt over the Sigma because the Reinhardt has more mobility, and in very linear maps and like low high ground maps, I think Ryan can get a little bit more value. But right now, it just seems like I would say Baptiste and Mei are in such a important space in terms of just like strength. You know, the amount of damage that Baptiste can put out is just absurd. And his immortality field gives him like a very unique ability that allows your team to play like very differently, and it gives you a massive opportunity for you to get positioning advantage. And then Mei is just so strong for, you know, obvious reasons. Her ult, I would say, is probably one of the best in the game, especially when you combine that with the Orisa's sucks. I think it's really easy for that kind of, you know, it's a really easy way to play the game. I think there's so many win conditions with Hanzo Dragon pull, Mei ult pull, Sigma ult pull, window pull, like that they all work together that you can just instantly kill someone, and there's just so much damage coming out there, it's really hard to mitigate.
The patch has been out a couple of weeks now. You played in the Breaking Barriers tournament, which I want to talk about a little bit. Granted, you didn't play support, but across tank, support, DPS, has there been anything that sort of come out and surprised you? Granted, it's not like the pro scene, so there is, you know, room for effort, but for everybody that's watching this, the Breaking Barriers tournament is a lot closer to their play than, say, the Overwatch League would be.
The most important thing is I actually don't know what the Overwatch League players are playing. You know, there's obviously rumors coming out there. This is all just, as you said, just like speculation of me playing in the Tier 3, what I've watched, what I've talked to people about and stuff like that. I would say the biggest surprise would be Reinhardt. Coming in as meta at times because he probably has the largest shield now at 1600, and he has high mobility. I actually think he's very strong, and I think you'll see a lot of him on these very niche picks. I think you'll see it maybe more on King of the Hill, but you know, King of the Hill is going to be more Lucio Mora, I would say. So when you have more mobility for the Ryan and the Moira heals and that kind of stuff, if you just let your Reinhardt run at the enemy team, it's actually really hard to stop. And Earthshatter gets a surprising amount of value. So I think Reinhardt has been the most interesting pick, and I think you'll see a lot more of him than you have, you know, obviously outside of GOATs, you haven't really seen him played at all.
Why are we seeing a bit less Lucio Mora then? Just because of how much damage Baptiste and Zen can do?
Yeah, so, you know, with the reduction of the health of all shields, you have Baptiste and Zen, which are the two highest damage dealing supports right now. What happened is people realized that if you just play those two and no two tanks that they can combine can run at you fast enough, then you can kill them. Lucio Mora has value if you can fight close quarters and you can get in their face, but if you can't get in their face and you have to sort of close the distance, the Baptiste Zen just kill things before you can even get close enough. So you'll see the resurgence of Baptiste Zen for sure, I think, on certain maps, but you'll still see some Lucio Mora here and there.
Now we'll go back to the sort of tank stuff because it reminded me of how much Wrecking Ball was played. Now granted, you aren't a main tank player or tank player previously, but you did a good experience playing it in the Breaking Barriers tournament. Is that something that people should expect, or is just Wrecking Ball as good as he was before?
I think Wrecking Ball definitely has his like small niche in the meta. I don't know actually how strong it is. I think if people are going to move away ever from these, you know, these comps that we've been talking about, I think Wrecking Ball is one of the best. I think Orisa is still a must pick. I think you'll always have an Orisa, but I think the other tank is the one which is very flexible. I've said you can play Sigma. I said you can play Reinhardt. I've said you can play Wrecking Ball. I think those three would be the important ones. Wrecking Ball gets a lot of value if the enemy team is sort of spreading out and you have the ability to move around the map. Obviously, the problem with Wrecking Ball is if Mei is meta, Mei is the hard counter to Wrecking Ball. If you ever get left clicked a little bit by Mei, you slow down so much that you'll get frozen, and once you're frozen, you're dead. So Wrecking Ball has his moments. You saw in the grand finals of the Breaking Barriers tournament, Yeatle was playing a lot of Wrecking Ball and getting a lot of value out of it. You can still be strong, but I think it's such a high risk, high reward kind of character where you can go one moment you can go from getting all these kills and creating all this space, and the next one you can get frozen instantly and just die. So,
you sort of mentioned the off tank role, I guess, is kind of the area where it's a lot more open now. I'm surprised that you didn't mention Roadhog. Like, how often did you see Roadhog in like the games that you played recently? The reason why I wanted to talk about it recently is because, like you said, not a lot of people know really where this barrier patch is going to go. A lot of people just assuming it's relatively the same now as it once was before this patch when Orisa Sigma was really good. But why isn't Roadhog a lot better considering shields are weaker and he could break shields very well?
So I actually had the same idea of maybe Roadhog will have more viability because he can break shields, and you can get good hooks on these characters. But the problem that you have is that, let's say the meta is Baptiste, Zen, Orisa, Sigma, and that kind of stuff. You're a pin cushion at that point, just giving them ults, and you take so much damage and everything dies so fast. So you have to be very careful about where you're moving. But on top of that, it's actually really hard to kill anything when you are on that, especially if they have a Mei. So I think what happens is, as a Roadhog, you can get hooks and you can get value with breaking shields, but I just don't think you ever accomplish anything of high value. And when you're talking about all these other main tanks that can get more value, it's really hard to justify it, because Roadhog is at his strongest when he can create pressure by flanking and hooking and that kind of stuff. But I think with how much damage exists in the game right now, with the supports being so strong, Baptiste, Zen, and that kind of stuff, I think it's way too easy to just get isolated and die. Again, it's the same thing of a double-edged sword of, yeah, you might be able to get a high-value pick and you might be able to, add this, moment here and there. But more often than not, I think you're going to die before you get any value.
Is that a similar thing for Diva then? Because it feels like everybody that I've spoken to about Diva, it's kind of like until she gets her effective range on defense matrix reverted back to where it was, she just isn't going to be good. Which is surprising because she could have been amazing in this meta.
She could have been, but her problem is, as people said, in a moment where everyone's just playing so far back with these high damage things, Diva is actually, I think, the most useless character in the game right now. She is an old battery for anyone that's shooting from distance. She dies super fast. She can't fly at you because people are playing Mei so much. So she can't get close. She can't do anything from range. She just offers literally nothing in that kind of stuff. And on top of that, Diva Bomb is so useless against all these characters because of how many shields exist. You have Immortality Field from Baptiste. You have Cryo Freeze from Mei. You're very rarely going to get any value out of that ultimate. So it's very hard to justify running Mei, especially with how many high value off tanks there are right now in the game.
It's not really misconceptions, because I think people know that Diva isn't very good right now. I think it's just needs repeating of why she isn't very good. Yeah. I think people just assume that how can her effective range be the only reason why she's not very good? I think you and multiple people have sort of answered that. On the flip side of that, Zenyatta is another hero that I feel the term power creep comes up, and the sort of argument that Zenyatta isn't very good because his healing output isn't great, his damage is good, but he doesn't offer as much as, say, Baptiste, who can do a lot of damage, do a lot of healing. Why is it that Zen, or do you think Zen is still good as a support player in his own right? Or do you feel that he doesn't provide enough? The only reason why he's being played now is just how aggressive he can be.
I actually really like Zen as a character that exists in the game because, as you said, he is not really a support character massively. He doesn't do a lot of heal, doesn't offer a lot in terms of defensive capability. He is a liability as a character on your team because he dies so fast. But especially in a 2-2-2 meta, it's like you're choosing to decide that damage is more important than survivability. You're playing this style, that's the reason people playing Zen again, is you're playing this style of we want to put the most amount of damage out and like make it so that it's really hard for them to move. So I think Zen adds this like really unique factor of like, oh, we're going to play Zen and this is going to be the style that is built around Zen. Because I really like when you have characters that have like a characteristic of style that allows the team to play in that way. So when you want long range healing with good survivability and good utility, you play Ana. And when you want something that wants to get super up close and quarters and heal everyone as a group, you play Moira. When you want to go fast, you play Lucio. I like those characteristics of characters and that you can choose each one based on the style that you're wanting to play with the composition. So I think Zen adds that. As you said, Zen has had some very high highs and very low lows of a character in the metas because of the low healing. So sometimes Zen is just like completely trash because you can't keep him alive. But then other times you're like, if you don't play Zen, you just don't have enough damage to win the game. So he has those moments up and down, and I understand the idea of power creep because sometimes he's just ridiculously strong. So him with his Transcendence is in this meta, I think Transcendence is probably the best support ult out there in terms of just survivability because he can't be killed and the amount of healing he does is very hard to blow through. So I like Zen in this current state.
So you don't feel that he's underperforming in any way or needs anything extra?
If you make his healing good, he would be the best support by like a significant margin, and that would be my problem with.
I think it's very easy to sort of assume that because roughly the same heroes for tanks and DPS at least are still being played, that the meta is the same, that nothing has realistically changed. But what you sort of said there about Baptiste and Zen being very aggressive in comparison to Moira Lucio, which was the meta before, the game has shifted quite dramatically in how aggressive it is now.
People are frustrated under the fact that it's like, everyone's still playing, the same heroes. But I think the Zen change actually changed it quite dramatically. The game is not completely new and everything, but the style of the way you're playing has changed. It used to be about being super aggressive and getting in their face, and the team that gets the little advantages early on. While now it's a lot about micro play and macro play as a team. About because your shields are a lot weaker, you need to use them a lot more effectively because your immortality field cooldown is the most important thing that you have in your team's kit. So it's about using that right. I think it's fun right now because of how different it is in terms of like how the style is being played, but it is different to last meta, but it's not, it's a stone's throw away, right? You've just sort of changed a couple of factors and now you're pretty much playing the same game. I think comparing it to the GOATS meta is a very good way of doing it. I think ult tracking is so important back again. It's not as much about, as you said, just living through their ultimates. It's about tracking them and making their use because everyone has such game-winning ults, and it's about getting one pick. Like it was in GOATS. You get one pick, you're in a pretty huge advantage. It's really hard to catch up from that. So everyone's sort of maneuvering and microing around, trying to isolate one person and that kind of stuff. Because everyone is generally standing behind shields or off-angling from a distance, it's a lot of, in my opinion, just trying to focus as a team and putting your damage through the highest value you can get. And that's why immortality fields are so valuable and that kind of stuff, because it's about forcing out these cooldowns, because a good team is not going to let someone die if they don't have an immortality field up, right? So if they have an immortality field up, they're probably going to be saved. So it's about you forcing these cooldowns, just like GOATS was, forcing Xayah bubbles, forcing cooldowns, forcing all that kind of stuff so that you could actually execute someone later on. With that said, this is my initial understanding of the meta. Who knows what's actually going on in the pro scene, because I've heard some things that's going all this different way, and you even see yesterday in Breaking Barriers tournament, you had OMS playing a lot of Pharah. They played Pharah Wrecking Ball almost exclusively and actually had a lot of success. But the question becomes, is that actually viable, or is that kind of like a niche strat that sort of pseudo counters it, but once it stops working, it's never going to work again?
Yeah. But yeah, that's the kind of thing. The Breaking Barriers tournament, really good, right? Like sort of a good thing that Blizzard has done that seems to really encapsulate what below tier 1 should be.
I think weekend tournaments have always been one of the best formats for it. It builds hype. It gives players and all these other people opportunities to like play. It's great when you have these contenders to wherever you want to go from have the opportunity, because you get to see these teams and players sort of step up. You get extra exposure from streamers because they're able to play. And that's the thing, is like I learned a lot from that, seeing the T2 and T3 scene. It was really interesting seeing what they had to offer. And it's just fun. Everyone is entertained, and especially in these situations of like downtime. Like if I was Blizzard, I would run these between every stage, right? Or like whenever there is a downtime, just run it on the weekend, and people will watch it. Because the issue right now, and the reason everyone was so hyped for this Breakable Barriers tournament, is what was the last Overwatch event that we had? It's been months. So people just, it doesn't need to be the highest level of play. It doesn't need to be that kind of stuff. As long as you have it open and that people can like, go have fun and they can sort of see what the game is looking like, that's the most important thing. So I think if they use this kind of style of tournament to sort of like break up the lulls in content, I think it'd be good.
Finally, where can people see more of you? You're having a big change now. So this is a great way to update the sort of LA Valiant or Dallas Fuel fans that watched you a while ago. What's next for Custa?
So now I'm going to be, because I'm going to be on the analyst desk for Overwatch League 2020. I will be around. You guys will still see me on the broadcast, but I am going to be almost full-time streaming during the downtime. So if you go to twitch.tv/Custa, you'll find me streaming almost very regularly. I'm going to be playing Overwatch. I'm going to be doing a lot of analysis, on Overwatch. So if you want to learn more about the game, come check me out. I'm on Twitter, all that kind of stuff on my socials. Just usually /Custa, you'll be able to find it all pretty easily. But yeah, if you're interested and you want to see more of me, I'll be definitely producing more content in the future.
And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. Big shout out to Custa. You can check him in the description. Do definitely check out his Twitch whilst we're in the lull of the Overwatch League. But I can't wait to see him on the desk, providing a lot of great takes and a lot of you hate to see it. And of course, big shout out to Owned by HP for helping support this video. Myself and Miska travelled around the world this year, and we couldn't have done it without Omen's support and also the laptops that we were provided. Being able to work from the Overwatch League Grand Finals, BlizzCon, Gamescom as well that we went to. We've got the chance to do some amazing stuff, so big shout out to them. Can't wait for 2020 or 2020. I don't know what people are saying. I'm gonna have to work that out. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you then.